Pozwól, że zabiorę Cię na wycieczkę do Georgii w Stanach Zjednoczonych. W Georgii na wzgórzu w hrabstwie Elbert znajduje się granitowy pomnik zwany drogowskazami Georgii. Zbudowany w 1980 roku, pomnik owiany jest tajemnicą. Powstał na zamówienie człowieka, który używał pseudonimu R.C. Christian. Zapłacił sowitą cenę, ale nalegał na zachowanie anonimowości. Pomnik składa się z 4 masywnych stojących kamieni, jedna płyta u góry podtrzymywana przez kamień filarowy, plus 1 kamień objaśniający. 2 rzeczy urzekają. Przede wszystkim pomnik to zegar astronomiczny i kalendarz skupiony na Słońcu, Księżycu, równonocach i przesileniach. Dziura była wywiercona w jednym z kamieni, przez który można zobaczyć gwiazdę polarną. Po drugie, kamienie te zawierają tekst, informacje o przyszłej Ziemi i epoce rozumu. Są napisane w 8 językach nowożytnych. Krótsza informacja jest opisana wokół kamienia na szczycie w 4 starożytnych językach: babilońskim, klasycznym greckim, sanskrycie i starożytnym egipskim. Oto przesłanie. Utrzymuj ludzkość poniżej 500 milionów w nieustannej równowadze z naturą. Kieruj reprodukcją mądrze, poprawiając kondycję i zróżnicowanie. Zjednocz ludzkość żywym, nowym językiem. Rządź pasją, wiarą, tradycją i wszystkim z zahartowanym rozumem. Chroń ludzi i narody o sprawiedliwym prawie i sprawiedliwym sądzie. Pozwól wszystkim narodom rządzić wewnętrznie i rozstrzygając zewnętrzne spory w światowym sądzie. Unikaj drobnych praw i bezużytecznych urzędników. Równoważ prawa osobiste z obowiązkami społecznymi. Ceń prawdę, piękno, miłość, szukanie harmonii z nieskończonym bytem. Nie bądź rakiem na ziemi. Zostaw miejsce dla natury, zostaw miejsce dla natury. W skrócie, kontrola populacji, unicestwienie dużej części populacji, specyficzną reprodukcją poprzez eugeniki, jeden język, jeden światowy sąd, obowiązki społeczne nad prawami osobistymi, rozsądek nad pasją, ceń prawdę, czyją prawdę i natura nad rasą ludzką, rakiem planety. Nie zapominajmy o tym, co nazywają wiekiem rozumu, a nie wiekiem miłości lub wiekiem współczucia lub wiekiem obfitości dla wszystkich. Oczywiście nie można oskarżyć tego pomnika o to, że jest mistyfikacją, w końcu po prostu tam stoi. Więc na co my patrzymy? Kim był tajemniczy pan Christian, który był gotów zapłacić tyle pieniędzy za coś tak zawiłego i kontrowersyjnego? Wydaje nam się, że Georgia Guidestones doskonale pokazują cel kabały, protokołów Syjonu i sposobu, w jaki starają się ukryć swoje prawdziwe intencje, za pomocą naiwnego terminu zrównoważony rozwój. Więc, co widzimy w naszym dzisiejszym świecie, co jest odbiciem tych wytycznych? Te cele. Wprowadź narody zjednoczone, uważane przez większość ludzi za wspaniałą instytucję. ONZ zostało założone zaraz po II wojnie światowej w październiku 1945 roku. Oficjalnie ONZ zostało powołane do utrzymania światowego pokoju i bezpieczeństwa i wytworzenia relacji i kooperacji pośród narodów. Ich niebieskie hełmy są kojarzone przez wielu z ochroną ludzi. Są oni nazywani strażnikami pokoju. Cóż, to jest jedna strona medalu. Druga strona pokazuje całkiem inny obraz. Obraz, w którym celem ONZ jest nowy porządek świata. Jeden światowy rząd, promowany przez uczoną starszyznę Syjonu. Czy to jest udowodniony fakt? Tak. W 2008 roku ONZ faktycznie ustanowiło swój własny projekt Nowego Porządku Świata, prowadzonego przez wnuka Nelsona Mandeli i byłego członka CIA Jamie Iliena. Według wysoce wpływowych ludzi, takich jak prezydent Bush senior, Bush junior i Gorbaczow, nowy porządek świata musi być oparty na zasadzie bezpieczeństwa zbiorowego. I to jest właśnie moment, w którym wchodzi ONZ. Niebieskie hełmy mogą zgodnie z prawem interweniować, gdy ONZ uważa, że kraj jest zagrożeniem dla bezpieczeństwa zbiorowego. Mogą zgodnie z prawem wysłać armię i zaatakować ten kraj, jak zrobili w wojnie koreańskiej w 1950 roku i ponownie w Zatoce Perskiej w 1990. Albo mogą legalnie wysłać misje wojskowe do kraju, jak w Sierra Leone w 1999 do 2006 roku. Armia ONZ składa się z 70 000 żołnierzy z różnych krajów. Jest to dobra czy zła rzecz? Cóż, ujmijmy to w ten sposób. Zakładając, że intencje były dobre, wynik był często zły, straszny, a nawet szokująco straszny. Rozumiemy, że wielu ludzi będzie miało bardzo trudny czas, aby zdać sobie z tego sprawę. Organizacje takie jak ONZ i WHO nie są jednostkami B9, za które się podają. Rozumiemy poziom dysonansu poznawczego i zaprzeczenia, który możemy wywołać, ale konieczne jest uświadomienie sobie, że zarówno ONZ, jak i WHO to kabalistyczne maszyny, które ukrywają się za fasadą piękna, ale nie popełnij błędu. Za ich maską kryją się potwory. Więc, aby rozprawić się z mitem sił pokojowych, oto kilka faktów, które każdy powinien znać. ONZ od dziesięcioleci jest zamieszane w wykorzystywanie seksualne i nadużycia. Niezliczone są doniesienia o nadużyciach seksualnych, gwałtach na kobietach i handlu dziećmi. Kiedy siły pokojowe stacjonowały w Kambodży w 1993 roku, liczba prostytutek wzrosła z 6 000 do ponad 25 000 tylko w tym samym roku. Szerokie wykorzystywanie prostytutek włącznie z brutalnym wykorzystywaniem seksualnym dziewcząt.
Also known as the American Stonehenge. They are a set of granite monoliths which were constructed in 1980 and funded by an unknown and anonymous group and commissioned by a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian. On a ledger beside the monument is written, "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason." Here we have a reference to a new age. With this, we get a clue as to the spirit behind the structure. The Age of Reason happens to be the title of a book by Thomas Paine. Now, you can colour him any which way you want to, but whichever way, one glaring colour shines through. Thomas was a hater of Christianity. That's the second clue to the spirit behind the Georgia Guidestones. The third is the fact that the Guidestones feature as what could be seen as a replacement to the Ten Commandments of the Christian God with the new Ten Commandments of the New Age. Because I will not steal, cheat, lie, kill, and so on. They're just, well, too narrow for the New Age, for the Age of Reason. Clearly designed to be a take on the biblical commandments, being 10 in number. They are all very vague indeed. But anyone can ascertain the horror that must first take place before this New Age can begin by looking at the first guideline. Because this one's not vague at all. Maintain humanity at under 500 million. That's right, a reduction of at least 7 billion human beings would be necessary for that. This thing cost the equivalent of $500,000 US to build, and the street it's located on is named after it, so that tells you how much reach its creators had. Its presence alone is a disgrace and a declaration of execution to most living people alive today. But let's go on to the fourth clue, as to the spirit behind these monuments. The monuments outlining the Age of Reason. The name R.C. Christian, the so-called person who commissioned the building of these giant slabs, anyone who's versed in secret societies or is a high-ranking member themselves would instantly recognize the pseudonym as a reference to the secret society known as the Rosicrucians, which is just another secret society branch that exists under the umbrella of Freemasonry, which is an extension of all secret societies of the past and is now the mother of all of them. In this Masonic website, Worshipful Master Wynne Westcott urges the Freemasons to consider their status as Rosicrucians. The RC stands for Rosenkreuz. Christian Rosenkreuz is the mythical founder of the Rosicrucian order. And as impossible as it is for me to prove that Thomas Paine himself, the writer of Age of Reason, was a Freemason, he did also write this book, The Origin of Freemasonry. That is the spirit behind the Georgia Guidestones, the satanic spirit, and a straight off the bat view of this approaching new age. I told you, the whole system is about to change, and it's not going into the future, it's actually going back into the past. The old religion, that's what's taking everything over. And you'll walk straight into it, blind as a bat, thinking these people want to help you. They will appear as your saviors. Why on earth would they want to keep forgetting? In a book I can't mention written by them, people are referred to as useless eaters. We've become excess inventory, redundant, and past our use-by date in their eyes. Think about this. According to a prediction by information technology and research advisory firm Gartner, 1/3 of jobs will be replaced by software, robots and smart machines by 2025. That's 4 years away. Google engineering director Ray Kurzweil anticipates that robots will have reached human-level intelligence by 2029. And by 2050, 80% of all jobs will be eliminated by automation. What on earth are you and your family good for then? What do you think the secret society will do to the vile multitude then? The utopia is coming, but it ain't your utopia. You still think that by the measure of the minds of international Satanism, you should be kept around? This excess baggage that the bulk of society has become? No, no, no. The new age is dawning. And generally speaking, you're not invited. It'll just look like you are. Remember that Charles Darwin, the Freemason, is listed as an influential figure in the Satanic Church. So mass murder and mass death are natural and necessary themes in the name of evolution, an artificially induced evolution into this. Here's the same image in real life in Eilat, Israel, seemingly unrelated to the seal on the US dollar bill, right? But standing in glory with a Masonic square and compass, telling you exactly who owns this pyramidal symbol, complete with the one eye on top. Same symbol, same designers, worshipping the same God. You should be getting goosebumps by now. Is this a conspiracy led by international Freemasonry? Oh, you don't have to bet your life on it, because your life has already been placed as a bet on your behalf and without your knowledge, but with your permission, because all of the information is hidden in plain sight. In your face is where it's hidden. You're going to lose this battle unless you've been hidden in Jesus Christ, the only one who warned you that the new age is a trap and that it is the climax to this epic drama being played out on planet Earth. Now hang on, brace yourself, because I ain't going to let you down. This is a magazine called The New Age, but if you press rewind, you can find its source. Supreme Council of 33 Degree, Freemasonry. This one stretches way back to 1922. See the twin pillars of Freemasonry?
Pokoju.
We cannot hide away from human population growth because
you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
Słyszeliście? Skąd wiesz, że ten sen był prawdziwy? Wierzę, że był prawdziwy, bo widziałem rzeczy, których wcześniej nie mogłem znać, a które teraz się dzieją. Na przykład skanery do rąk w sklepach spożywczych i w centrach handlowych. Niedawno byłem w sklepie i zobaczyłem dokładnie taki skaner, jaki widziałem w śnie. Pokazywał dłoń z jakąś wiązką światła. Zapytałem kasjerkę, do czego to służy. Odpowiedziała, że w przyszłości planują wprowadzić implanty, aby ludzie mogli dokonywać transakcji przykładając dłoń, bez czeków, kart kredytowych czy gotówki. A ja widziałem to, zanim stało się rzeczywistością. Wspominałeś, że coś sprawiło, że zapragnąłeś czytać Biblię. Opowiedz o tym. Wiesz, Sid, w tamtym czasie nie wiedziałem, że Bóg może mówić do ludzi na osobistym poziomie. Moje wyobrażenie o Nim było takie, że jest gdzieś daleko, w kosmosie, zbyt zajęty, by się mną interesować. Ale z czasem zrozumiałem, że w tamtym momencie Bóg mówił właśnie do mnie. Kiedy opowiedziałem ten sen temu człowiekowi, powiedział mi, że Bóg próbuje się do mnie odezwać. To On uświadomił mi, że rzeczy, które widziałem, pochodzą wprost z Biblii. Zapytał mnie też, czy to czytałeś? Odpowiedziałem, że nie, że przeczytałem tylko kilka rozdziałów, ale bez zrozumienia. Dla mnie te wersety były pozbawione sensu. Nie byłem oświecony, by je pojąć. Czytałem je tylko dlatego, że czułem, że muszę to zrobić. Myślę, że to wynikało z mojego religijnego wychowania. Próbowałem znaleźć Boga, ale na swoich warunkach. Policja nie była już organem porządku publicznego. To było bardziej jak wojsko. Widziałem pojazdy wojskowe, których wcześniej nigdy nie widziałem. A teraz już wiem, że naprawdę istnieją. Widziałeś je w swoim śnie, zanim jeszcze w ogóle istniały? Dokładnie. Widziałem je w śnie, ale wtedy one nie istniały. Przynajmniej ja nigdy wcześniej ich nie widziałem. Ani na zdjęciach, ani w telewizji. Nigdzie. Człowiek, którego spotkałem, zaczął wyjaśniać mi, jak można nawrócić się do Chrystusa. Przystałem na to. I wtedy zaczął tłumaczyć mi, co się dzieje na świecie. To było niemal nie do opisania. Nie było żadnego rządu, żadnej struktury, która by nas chroniła. Nie było poczucia bezpieczeństwa, które zwykle daje nam państwo. To wszystko zostało całkowicie usunięte. Nie było już lokalnych służb porządkowych. Zamiast tego funkcjonowała jakaś armia, milicja. To wszystko wyglądało na stan wojenny. Ludzie byli przerażeni, ale jest coś, czego nigdy nie zapomnę. Niemowlęta zniknęły. Przez jakiś czas w tym śnie nie było żadnych małych dzieci, żadnych noworodków. Gdzie zniknęły? Gdzie się podziały te wszystkie dzieci? Po prostu zniknęły. Zniknęły bez śladu. Tak po prostu. Zniknęły. Wiele matek było absolutnie przerażonych. Zniknęły noworodki i małe dzieci. Ale potem, po jakimś czasie, ludzie zaczęli znów mieć dzieci. I wtedy zrozumiałem, że to koniec. Chociaż nic o końcu świata nie wiedziałem, w głębi serca wiedziałem, że to koniec. Że koniec świata jest za rogiem. Widziałem budynki w mieście, w którym wtedy mieszkałem. Niektóre z nich dopiero miały powstać, na przykład trójkątny szklany wieżowiec, który teraz tam już jest. Cały system finansowy był inaczej zorganizowany. Tylko wybrane osoby mogły dokonywać transakcji handlowych. Aby kupić jedzenie w sklepie, ludzie musieli mieć jakiś znak na ręce. Wszystko było kontrolowane. Nigdy nie czytałeś tego w Biblii? Nigdy. A jednak to jest w Biblii. Nigdy tego nie czytałem. Dobrze, kontynuuj. To było bardzo dziwne, bo ludzie byli kontrolowani. Dosłownie. Widać było, że są obserwowani. Tego czuło się stać. Coś, co mnie uderzyło, to fakt, że nie zauważyłem żadnej wolności religijnej. Żadnej. W końcu zabrali nas do jakiegoś pomieszczenia. Dalsze przesłuchania. Doszliśmy do wniosku, że nie możemy podporządkować się ich rozkazom i wtedy wprowadzili nas do wielkiego korytarza w tym budynku. Miał jakieś 50, może 100 metrów długości. Wzdłuż ścian stało mnóstwo ludzi czekających w kolejce. Nie wiedzieliśmy, co się dzieje, ale co kilka minut ktoś z tej kolejki był zabierany do pomieszczenia na końcu korytarza. I tak krok po kroku zaczęliśmy rozumieć, co się dzieje. Oni mordowali tych ludzi. Drzwi się otworzyły. Więc ty byłeś w tej kolejce? Tak, stałem w kolejce. Co wydarzyło się później? Wielu ludzi posuwało się już naprzód, gdy nagle drzwi zostały otwarte. Nie wiem dlaczego, ale tak się stało. Wtedy zobaczyliśmy, co dzieje się za nimi. Ja oraz mężczyzna, o którym wspominałem, ruszyliśmy dalej. W pewnej chwili ujrzeliśmy ludzi tracących głowy. Dosłownie. Wtedy ogarnął mnie przerażający strach. Nie mogłem pojąć, co czeka nas za tymi drzwiami. Słuchaj, nie bałbyś się tylko wtedy, gdyby coś było z tobą nie tak. Sid, ten strach był nie do opisania. Czułem, jakby moje ciało przeszywał lodowaty dreszcz. Byłem poza sobą. Zacząłem się obawiać, że zaprę się wiary w Jezusa, że nie podołam. Skamieniałem ze strachu i po prostu zacząłem wołać. Nie modlić się, to było raczej rozpaczliwe błaganie. Bałem się, że jeśli się zaprę, spotka mnie coś gorszego niż śmierć. Właśnie tego się najbardziej lękałem. Więc krzyknąłem: Panie, proszę, pomóż mi. Krótko, ale w tej chwili to nie była typowa modlitwa. To była szczera modlitwa. Szczera do głębi. I wtedy, Sid, poczułem, jak ktoś dotyka mojego ramienia. Odwróciłem się. Dotknięcie przyniosło falę ciepła, która rozlała się po moim ciele. Chwilę wcześniej niemal dzwoniłem zębami z zimna wywołanego strachem. Gdy poczułem to ciepło, zobaczyłem za sobą Jezusa. W ułamku sekundy przeszło mi przez myśl milion rzeczy. Ale przede wszystkim ogarnął mnie pokój. Spojrzał mi prosto w oczy i powiedział: nie lękaj się, śmierć nigdy cię nie pochwyci. Zrozumiałem te słowa dopiero później. Kilka chwil po tym, gdy osoba przede mną została stracona, przyszła moja kolej. Pytali mnie, Sid, oni wyczuwali, kto się złamie. Niektórzy rzeczywiście odchodzili z tej kolejki. Masz na myśli, że zapierali się Pana? Tak, zaparli się Pana. Wydaje mi się, że wcześniej zauważyli moje wahanie w kolejce. Zapytali mnie ponownie, a ja odpowiedziałem: nie, Jezus jest Panem, nie mogę się Go zaprzeć. Wtedy kat przygotował mnie do egzekucji. Gdy tylko miecz dotknął mojej szyi, w tej samej chwili odszedłem. I nagle znalazłem się z Panem, patrząc na całą scenę z boku. To było niezwykłe. W jednej chwili byłem w Jego obecności, uwolniony od śmierci, której doświadczałem. Widziałem wszystko. W tym momencie kat zdjął maskę i powiedział: nie będę zabijać więcej tych ludzi. A potem obudziłem się. Jak się wtedy czułeś?
RFID microchip implanted underneath your skin, or maybe an electronic tattoo that sticks to your arm or your wrist. Not only does it look badass and trendy, but it's also every bit as useful and complex as your smartphone. Now, I know it sounds like something futuristic or even something out of a science fiction movie, but guess what? The future is now. And not only does this technology already exist, but it's already being developed and implemented at a rapid and accelerated pace as the technological elite finally begin to bridge the gap between our digital and physical
20 years ago,
identities.
but a biometric reality today.
In medical news tonight, a chip the size of a grain of rice could save your life.
I've just been chipped myself. It's not a painless process, but it doesn't last too long, not too difficult, minor surgical procedure.
New microchip technology now makes it possible for the emergency room staff to find out about your medical history at the touch of a computer key.
At some point, we're all going to have RFIDs. It might be even in our fingers, where they require it with everything on it.
Instead of carrying credit cards or money, we will probably be implanted with chips.
And now RFID microchips like this are being injected into humans.
I'm sorry, sir, did you just say you would get one implanted in your arm?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Our driver's license will be on the RFID chip. Our credit card number, all our information will be on this one chip.
The chip is encased in unbreakable glass and is about the size of a grain of rice. The procedure is done with anesthesia and is relatively pain-free.
It felt pretty scary, but at the same time it felt very modern, very 2015.
The government has just approved the use of a computer chip that would be implanted under your skin.
When complete, everyone will have a unique 12-digit identity number.
If hospitals purchase this detection equipment, the system will most likely start to include more and more people in those communities who will want the chips.
Wow.
Interesting stuff.
Everybody could have one of those one day.
Does Google now know everything I do and everywhere I go? Because, let's face it, we like you guys, but you're from Google.
It may be true that 10 to 20-year-olds don't want to wear a watch on their wrist, but you can be sure that they'll be far more interested in wearing an electronic tattoo, if only to piss off their parents.
Forget mobile phones. Your children and grandchildren may well want an implant instead.
You know, when we check out at the grocery store, we'll be swiping our own arm over the scanner. And that will be something we feel we can't live without.
It would be such a disadvantage to not have the implant that it essentially becomes not optional.
Let's imagine a little bit what the future might look like if I could take your stem cells and put them on a chip, or your stem cells and put them on a chip. It would be a personalized chip just for you.
It turns over, but it doesn't stop. But the RFID reader antenna is here. So when I authenticate, the bike powers up. That's it.
Imagine if some of these machines could be made so thin, light, and portable that they could be attached right to the surface of your skin and go wherever you go.
There's some very sophisticated device functionality sitting on my skin.
Welcome to the future, specifically the checkpoint of the future.
It is envisaged that the passenger will be able to flow through the security checkpoint without interruption.
This is what IATA, which is the airline industry trade body, is hoping will become commonplace around the world. A sort of one-stop shop for security from the curb to the gate, as they say, with dignity.
Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over.
Mark my words, huh? More like the mark of the beast.
Even though it is called a tattoo, there is no need to pierce or puncture the skin. Instead, the device sticks on.
So what we can do then is we can take this device, laminate it on the skin.
It occurs to me I've got them in my dogs. Why wouldn't I have them in small children too?
There are also several products available to keep track of children. Many of them act as emergency cell phones and tracking devices, with some even able to display on a map the places your child has visited.
They told you we're giving you a nano tracker chip?
Yes.
To think something so small can connect you to everything that matters.
Because I'm in love with my kids' kids.
Because my car lost control while driving.
Because now I'm looking out for both of us.
Because I have diabetes, but it doesn't have me.
Because I spend my life in the ER trying to save yours.
Skóra takie małe chipy, dzięki którym szybko można ustalić właściciela. Pieski mają się dobrze, a więc amerykańska sieć kiosków spożywczych postanowiła w podobny sposób zaczipować swoich pracowników, dzięki czemu w każdej chwili mogą sobie coś kupić, płacąc tylko pik zbliżeniem ręki. Z chipem oczywiście. No i z ustaleniem właściciela też wtedy w sumie żaden kłopot. Trochę powoli, ale czym jest drobne ukłucie w porównaniu z milowym krokiem w kierunku świata androidyzacji?
Pracuję w firmie od 6 lat i kiedy mi o tym powiedziano, miałam trochę obaw związanych ze zdrowiem, ale od początku byłam podekscytowana tą technologią i tym, jak ją możemy wykorzystać.
Na razie służy do robienia zakupów we własnych kioskach.
Możesz sobie wziąć cokolwiek z półki, skanujesz produkt, pokazuje się on na monitorze i teraz finalizujesz swój zakup, przykładając tu swój chip.
Na zaczipowanie zdecydowała się połowa pracowników firmy.
Można je wykorzystać do tak wielu rzeczy. Nie chodzi tylko o otwieranie drzwi czy kasy samoobsługowe w marketach. Jest tak wiele możliwych zastosowań.
Można na przykład dodać nadajnik i pracownik już się nie zgubi, ani nie urwie na chwilę. Dobre, prawda? Aż za dobre.
Czy to naprawdę jest dobrowolne, kiedy twój pracodawca pyta cię, czy chcesz wszczepić sobie mikrochipa?
A kto nie wszczepi, tego się przeszczepi, chociaż szefowie firmy chipującej pracowników twierdzą, że to nie tak.
To jest kwestia tego, że wszystko się zmienia. Niektórzy nie chcieli przestawić się na smartfony, bo nie czuli się z nimi komfortowo i pozostawali przy swoich telefonach z klapką. Kiedy przestawili się na smartfony, pokochali je. Tu chodzi o poziom komfortu.
Pełen komfort, chociaż gdy chipować zacznie minister sprawiedliwości, możemy się obudzić w trochę innym świecie.
Ci, którzy rządzą chipami, będą rządzić całym światem. Ci, którzy rządzą informacjami, będą rządzić światem. Tak będą mówić ludzie przyszłości.
Pierwsze ukłucie przyszłości już za nami. Jest trochę bolesne.
My name is Miguel. One amazing sign of the end time is that a powerful, one-world government is going to arise. It'll be headed by the worst tyrant and evil dictator that this world has ever known. He is a man usually referred to as the Antichrist. He'll try to force everyone to receive a personal ID or credit mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. And without it, no one will be allowed to legally buy or sell. At first, this new credit system will seem like a good idea to a lot of people. But watch out. The Bible warns us that there is something horribly wrong with the Antichrist's mark and his number, which is called the mark of the beast, or 666.
As his plan for replacing cash, checks, and credit cards with new personalized 666 barcode system were implemented, peace and order began to be re-established. Now, in tonight's program, our great world leader unveils Stage 2 of his plan for the perfect world. The amazing new 666 biochip implant, guaranteeing you physical health and spiritual well-being at the punch of a computer key, plus the guarantee of lifelong security within the new 666 world order.
Watch out for 666. Watch out for 666.
In a vision of the future, I saw in a vivid dream that the hour is soon coming when men will become machines. A new one world order will rise and then demand that all the world's people receive their scientific brand. I saw a tiny pre-programmed computer chip so thin, implanted in men's foreheads, underneath their skin, linking all its bearers to the system's central brain. The master computer that over them will reign. Watch out for 666 and the computer chip that is designed to strip you on your self-control. Don't sell your soul. Men's thoughts will be programmed by this new technology. Those who take the number, their slaves will always be. So how can you for me if it's life and love you choose? Then you'll follow the truth, and that mark you will refuse. Watch out for 666 and the computer chip that is designed to strip you of your self-control. Watch out for 666 and the computer chip that is designed to strip
basically, the consensus of opinion of these guys is there are two kinds of UFOs. There are top secret government craft, and there are satanic manifestations, demonic, okay?
Now, I have since come to believe that the extraterrestrial portion of all of this is nonsense, but that the technology is real. I believe that many of us were shown these documents over the years so that later we would talk about it. I mean, how can you keep the existence of extraterrestrials, if they were real, a secret? And how could anyone keep quiet knowing that they had seen documentation, official government documents labeled top secret, that expressed that these extraterrestrials were real and had visited this earth? I wanted to know just how true all of this was, and I began a program of research to find out if extraterrestrials were real. What I discovered was amazing. What I discovered, ladies and gentlemen, is that there has been a plan in existence since about 1917, and probably before that, to create an artificial extraterrestrial threat to this earth in order to create a one-world totalitarian socialist government. Experiments have been proposed to test the credibility of an out-of-our-world invasion threat. And it continues on another page. Nevertheless, an effective political substitute for war would require alternate enemies, some of which might seem equally far-fetched in the context of the current war system. It may be, for instance, that gross pollution of the environment can eventually replace the possibility of mass destruction by nuclear weapons as the principal substitute for war. Are you beginning to get the message, folks?
I know for a fact that the plan is to make all of us feel totally helpless, that what's happening is beyond our realm to affect because we've been taken over by aliens, that our Independence Day is dying. They can keep from us. They can manipulate us by those secrets. In essence, they still remain 25 years at least ahead of us in technology, information, and knowledge, and secrets, and they are using them against us. I heard over the years many times over that the plan to usher in the New World Order would be to make all the people in this country and around the world feel totally helpless to prevent the New World Order from occurring, this world dominance plan, by saying that we had been invaded by aliens, so that we would say, oh, please, UN, come in and help us all. So bear in mind that there is a planned orchestration to get people to be submissive through the secret technology and information that they're keeping from you under the blanket of the so-called National Security Act that's threatening the security of our nation.
The following is an excerpt from an interview from a woman who called herself Sfali. It is my belief that Sfali was an actual Illuminati defector. Sfali, I have to ask you this. There are stories floating around the internet about the Illuminati and other agencies being run by extraterrestrials, in particular a reptilian race operating from a higher dimension. Any thoughts on that? My answer will probably cause a lot of anger, and it's not meant to step on any toes. Here it goes. I've never seen an alien or extraterrestrial. I have seen some programming to make people think they saw aliens as a cover story for programming if they remembered. None of the head trainers I knew or others in the Leadership Council believed in aliens, although I never asked them. I personally believe that the reptilian stuff is actually the demonic at work. I have seen shape-shifting and other stuff because of demonic influence. Okay, here some will say, gee, she believes in demons. That's as far out as aliens. Well, this is what the Illuminati certainly believe in. They know there are spiritual reasons.
Her little pastime was calling up, supposedly filling the sky with UFOs and watching everybody's excitement. And some of the most outstanding sightings were in the early 70s in Ohio. And she used to laugh about it because she'd be standing in a circle out in the field somewhere calling up demons. And that's all they were angels of light playing games in the sky. Remember, a demon, get the little spooky picture. There are a fallen angel, an unclean spirit. They can assume any form or go into anything. But they can assume forms including spacemen or solid objects like flying saucers or so on. That's why when they appear on the radar scope and a jet gets up there, they vanish right in front of the palisade because they're nothing but a spirit.
And then, of course, there are plans to create a mock alien invasion. I have talked briefly on the radio for Prophecy Club about the flying saucers. Somebody very high up in the New World Order who was brought to Christ by a close friend of mine has talked about piloting the flying saucers. Yes, the United States government has flying saucers. He considered that the beings that were co-piloting these flying saucers were aliens. He took a second look and realized these were demons. I could go on. The bottom line is I have concluded that there are no good aliens. The aliens are demons, and we've got a mixture going on of demons and flesh and blood. And we've also got other genetic experiments. I'm just giving you a tiny sampling of how sophisticated this programming really is. Satan has really outdone himself. And they have a program for infiltrating the churches. And anyone who is a legitimate Christian minister is going to be singled out and targeted.
I never saw them.
He says the grain plain, the master's grain plain, for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. So we continued, after we expressed ourselves that we're deeply interested to know more about the activities of spirits. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grain plane is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because he says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
To dobre pytanie. Na wielką skalę, w polityce na przykład, wpływ diaboliczny jest już dość wyraźnie widoczny. Ale tam, gdzie odnotowujemy największe postępy zła, a mówię o zmianie, którą zaczęliśmy obserwować 2-3 lata temu, jest rodzina. Demony, które dawniej nie atakowały pewnych środowisk, teraz przystąpiły do pełnego natarcia właśnie na dobre rodziny. Rodziny, które historycznie prowadziły przyzwoite życie. Właściwie wychowywały dzieci, były głęboko religijne i robiły to, co do nich należało. Teraz są atakowane. To sygnał, że demony stały się śmielsze. W miarę jak świat pogrąża się w złu, one zyskują na sile i mogą atakować twierdze, których wcześniej by nie tknęły. Obserwujemy więc rozpad rodziny. Przeróżne problemy pojawiające się w życiu rodzinnym. Często wygląda to tak, że jedno z dobrze wychowanych dzieci nagle i bez wyraźnego powodu schodzi na złą drogę, a rodzice są bezradni. To może być też znak, że demony wiedzą, że mają mało czasu. Myślę, że tak właśnie jest. Wiedzą, że Bóg nie będzie w nieskończoność tolerował poziomu zła, jaki obserwujemy na świecie. Widzieliśmy to przy potopie. Widzieliśmy przy zniszczeniu Sodomy i Gomory. Bóg toleruje zło tylko do pewnego momentu, a potem mówi dość i dokonuje korekty, by sprowadzić ludzi z powrotem na właściwą drogę. Demony znają ten schemat, obserwowały go przez całą historię. Wiedzą, że gdy poziom zła osiąga obecny pułap, Bóg wkroczy. Zawsze mówię ludziom. Patrzymy z góry na mieszkańców Sodomy i Gomory, ale przynajmniej oni nie próbowali się nawzajem poślubić. To czyni naszą sytuację pod tym względem jeszcze poważniejszą. A fakt, że ogólnie porządni ludzie tolerują to i uważają za normalne, bo większość społeczeństwa akceptuje małżeństwa jednopłciowe, to dla mnie wskaźnik naszego zbiorowego obłędu. Ale tak czy inaczej, myślę, że demony wiedzą, że gra dobiega końca, że Bóg w pewnym momencie interweniuje, żeby dokonać korekty. Wiedzą, że czasu jest mało, ale wiedzą też, jak wielką mają teraz moc. Święty Franciszek z Asyżu w XIII wieku wygłosił proroctwo, w którym mówił o czasie, gdy demony będą miały niezwykłą siłę. Jako egzorcyści obserwujemy, że ich wytrwałość i zdolność do trwania na swoich pozycjach osiągnęły poziom, jakiego historycznie po prostu nie znaliśmy. Wiemy, że jest tam wielkie zło, które daje im tę moc. Ale główny kierunek ataku jest teraz jeden. Rodzina. Na czym miałaby polegać ta korekta? Czy będzie to korekta, czy zbliżamy się raczej do końca czasów? Tu nie mamy żadnej pewności. Możliwe, że warunki dla pojawienia się Antychrysta są już niemal gotowe. Antychryst będzie rządził światem, nie przez władzę polityczną, lecz przez gospodarkę. Choć będzie też kontrolował rządy, jego rzeczywistą domeną będzie ekonomia. A żeby to było możliwe, musi nastąpić unifikacja światowej gospodarki na poziomie, który jest jeszcze trochę dalej niż to, co mamy dziś. Nie sądzę więc, że Antychryst pojawi się lada chwila, choć mogę się mylić. Jest też inna możliwość. Istnieje wiele proroctw świętych i objawień Matki Bożej. Jak chociażby te w Fatimie, gdzie 3 dzieci ujrzała Maryję, a potem cud słońca widziało 70 000 ludzi. W niektórych z tych objawień, między innymi w La Salette, Maryja mówi o nadchodzącym karaniu. Będzie to kara mniejsza, ale jej skala będzie taka, że zobaczymy rozpad infrastruktury. Bóg dopuści jakiś rodzaj wojny lub innego kataklizmu, który będzie brutalny nawet dla tych, którzy są dobrze przygotowani. Dla wszystkich będzie trudny. Powiedział ojciec, jeśli dobrze rozumiem, że scena jest już niemal gotowa, że prawie wszystko, co miało się wydarzyć, się wydarzyło. Co już się stało, a co jeszcze musi się stać? Ojcowie Kościoła przekazują, że przed przyjściem Antychrysta nastąpi powszechny upadek moralności. I to już się dokonało. Od lat 50. XX wieku obserwujemy lawinowy rozpad. Ludzie przestali kierować się prawem Bożym czy prawem naturalnym w jakimkolwiek znaczeniu tego słowa. To już za nami. Drugim warunkiem jest unifikacja światowych gospodarek. Antychryst musi być w stanie kontrolować ludzi na masową skalę. Co więcej, musi być to system, w który każdy żyjący człowiek będzie zmuszony się włączyć, żeby przeżyć. Stąd mowa o znaku bestii. Jesteśmy już prawie w miejscu, gdzie możliwe byłoby powiedzenie: jeśli nie zaakceptujesz określonych warunków, nie otrzymasz dostępu do globalnej cyfrowej waluty. To właśnie moim zdaniem jest jeden ze sposobów, w jaki antychryst będzie kontrolował ludzi. Przez waluty cyfrowe, odcinając tych, którzy odmówią podporządkowania się jego zasadom. Będzie w stanie dosłownie zagłodzić opornych. Tak więc te elementy są już w grze. Mówimy tu o systemie społecznego kredytu zaufania i tym podobnych mechanizmach. Wiemy też, że Kościół katolicki musi wcześniej przejść przez poważny kryzys osłabienia, po którym nastąpi odrodzenie. A tuż przed przyjściem antychrysta moralność ludzi znów gwałtownie się załamie. W tempie tak błyskawicznym, że ostatnie 50 lat wyda się przy tym niczym. Będzie to znacznie szybsze. Część proroctw się już wypełniła, część jeszcze nie. Wszyscy będą pod jego wpływem? Mówi się, że antychryst będzie tak charyzmatyczny, że bez szczególnych łask od Boga bardzo łatwo będzie można dać się wciągnąć w jego naukę i to, co głosi. A będzie to oczywiście odrzucenie Chrystusa. Ustanowi siebie Mesjaszem, ale będzie to miało charakter polityczny. Zanim się pojawi, muszą też powrócić dwaj prorocy przebywający w niebie. Eliasz i Henoch. Zostaną zabici, bo powrócą właśnie po to, by głosić przeciwko niemu. Te rzeczy muszą się wydarzyć, zanim Chrystus powróci i ostatecznie go zgładzi. Czy wiemy, pod jakimi imionami się pojawią? Nie, poza tym, że będą to Eliasz i Henoch. Będzie jasne, kim są. A co ze świątynią? Według ojców Kościoła, przynajmniej tych, których czytałem, świątynia nigdy nie zostanie odbudowana. Nigdy nie zostanie odbudowana. Przyczyną jest m.in. to, że Julian Apostata próbował ją odbudować i w tym procesie została zniszczona. Chrystus celowo położył kres żydowskiej ofierze, ponieważ ofiara Starego Testamentu była zapowiedzią i prefiguracją Chrystusa. Dał im jedno pokolenie, żeby przeszli na chrześcijaństwo. Gdy tego nie zrobili, położył kres ich ofierze. Technicznie rzecz biorąc, od 2000 lat nie ma praktykujących Żydów w pełnym sensie tego słowa, bo bez świątyni nie mogą składać ofiar. Nie znaczy to, że się nie modlą, ale nie mogą wypełniać swojego głównego obowiązku religijnego, jakim jest ofiara. Do tego zniszczona została ich linia lewicka, czyli kapłańska. Ludzie mają tendencję do błędnej interpretacji Księgi Daniela, która mówi o tym, że ohyda spustoszenia zasiądzie w świątyni. Nie zdają sobie sprawy, że nie chodzi tu o świątynię żydowską. Tu właśnie protestanci się mylą. Wielu protestantów myśli: pomóżmy Żydom odbudować świątynię, bo potem wróci Chrystus. Zakładają, że świątynia musi zostać odbudowana, żeby antychryst mógł się w niej umieścić, a to sprowadzi Chrystusa. Taki jest tok ich rozumowania. Po pierwsze, samo przeżycie lat panowania antychrysta będzie brutalne, więc nie zachęcałbym do przyspieszania tych wydarzeń. Ojcowie Kościoła są jednak jednoznaczni. Świątynia nigdy nie zostanie odbudowana, a ohyda spustoszenia zasiadająca w świątyni odnosi się w rzeczywistości do Kościoła katolickiego. Ojcowie mówią, że sytuacja w Kościele zostanie w jakiś sposób skompromitowana do tego stopnia. Nie oznacza to, że wszyscy muszą to rozumieć, ale jego istotne elementy pozostaną nienaruszone. Sam Kościół katolicki jednak zostanie w tym procesie skompromitowany. W kontekście kontroli społecznej i rządzenia przez gospodarkę. W ciągu ostatnich 6 lat słyszałem różne rzeczy, które mogą być tym znakiem. Szczepionka na COVID, waluta cyfrowa, Neuralink. Chcę zapytać, co ludzie mają robić? Powiedzmy, że wprowadzą nową walutę cyfrową. Na pewno nie będzie to wyglądać jak znak bestii, ale może z czasem stanie się to bardziej oczywiste, gdy część ludzi zacznie się opierać. Myślę o tym ciągle. Mam dzieci, są małe, mam żonę. Mam ludzi, którzy są ode mnie zależni. Co mamy robić, jeśli nie będziemy mogli jeść, zadbać o siebie, utrzymać rodziny? Co mamy robić, jeśli to jedyny sposób na przeżycie? Czy głowa rodziny ma obowiązek? Ojcowie Kościoła mówią wyraźnie, nie można przyjąć znaku bestii. Ma to być coś, co jest... Po pierwsze, znak bestii jest odwróceniem tego, co nazywamy znakiem chrztu. Gdy człowiek jest ochrzczony, Bóg wlewa w jego duszę pewną jakość. Właśnie znak. Stąd w Kościele katolickim podczas chrztu namaszcza się czoło krzyżmem. Na znak, że człowiek został poświęcony Chrystusowi przez chrzest. Znak bestii będzie odwróceniem tego. Będzie czymś w naszym ciele, co da dostęp do określonych zasobów. Jak Neuralink, coś podobnego, albo chip RFID, który pozwoli po prostu wejść do sklepu i zostać zeskanowanym. System będzie wiedział, kim jesteś i że masz dostęp do żywności i innych dóbr. Może to działać tak, że nie będziesz potrzebować karty kredytowej. Twoje konto bankowe będzie po prostu powiązane z tym chipem. Ojcowie Kościoła mówią jednak, że nie będzie można otrzymać tego chipa bez jakiejś formy wyrzeczenia się Chrystusa. Będzie trzeba zaakceptować coś religijnego, o czym wiadomo, że jest sprzeczne z wolą Bożą i z Chrystusem. Morał jest taki, trzeba być gotowym poświęcić dobro mniejsze dla dobra większego. Trzeba być gotowym powiedzieć, idę za Chrystusem bez względu na osobisty koszt. Bóg jednak bardzo często będzie zapewniał ludziom opatrzność. Jeśli Jego świętą wolą będzie, żeby przeżyli ten czas, sprawi, że będzie to możliwe. Nauczyłem się też, i pewnie w wojsku też to widziałeś, że im mocniej zaciśniesz pięść, tym więcej wyślizgnie się między palcami. Myślę, że będą sposoby na przeżycie. Trzeba jednak być mądrym, nauczyć się podstawowych umiejętności przetrwania, nauczyć się radzić sobie samemu, korzystając z natury. Myślę jednak, że przy obecnym poziomie technologii będzie niezwykle trudno uniknąć wykrycia. Też tak myślę. Jeszcze jedno pytanie. Zawsze słyszałem o złotym cielcu. Jak to się wpisuje w kontekst końca czasów? Złoty cielec w Starym Testamencie to stworzenie Boga na własną miarę. Dokładnie to samo zobaczymy w związku z Antychrystem. Ustanowi siebie tym, któremu należy oddawać cześć. Trudność polega na tym, że Antychryst będzie doskonale opętany przez szatana i obdarzony jego inteligencją. Przy doskonałym opętaniu to szatan będzie siedział za kierownicą. Będziemy więc mierzyć się z kimś, kto dysponuje intelektem szatana. W związku z tym intelektualne przeciwstawienie się mu będzie niezwykle trudne bez szczególnych łask od Boga.
I teraz, jeśli chodzi właśnie o tę wiedzę biblijną, proszę zwrócić uwagę. Izrael 28 lutego zaatakował Iran. 28 lutego, nie wiem, czy Państwo pamiętacie, jaki to był dzień. Sobota. W kalendarzu liturgicznym szabat. To jest specjalny szabat, który się nazywa Zachor Szabat. To jest szabat poprzedzający wielkie święto Purim. I w ten Zachor Szabat we wszystkich synagogach żydowskich jest odczytywany fragment 17 rozdziału Księgi Powtórzonego Prawa, w którym jest napisane, Bóg mówi: nigdy nie zapomnisz tego, co ci uczynił Amalek. Będziesz go nienawidził i go wybijesz aż do ostatniego. Kim jest Amalek, Amalekici? Amalekici w Starym Testamencie są największym wrogiem Izraela. Izraelici są zaatakowani przez Amalekitów, między innymi kiedy wychodzą z Egiptu, dochodzą do oazy Refidim i okazuje się, w tej oazie nie ma wody. Oni są zmęczeni, skrajnie wykończeni i w tym momencie atakuje ich Amalek. Potem także Amalekici to jest Haman, czyli historia Judyty. Oni będą i w starcie z Mardocheuszem, Żydem, któremu historia Hamana, który zapowiada całkowitą zagładę Żydów. Stąd w Biblii pozostaje ten resentyment do Amalekitów. To są najwięksi wrogowie. Haman był Amalekitą. W szabat w Zachor czyta się fragment o nienawiści do Amalekitów. Kim są Amalekici w interpretacji biblijnej w tej chwili geopolityki? Persowie, czyli Iran. Dlatego daję wam coś do myślenia, dlaczego jedna z pierwszych rakiet spada na szkołę pełną dzieci. Jeśli nie mamy klucza religijnego, biblijnego do czytania pewnych wydarzeń, to nie będziemy wiedzieć, o co chodzi. Jeszcze raz przypomnę tylko to, co chcę powiedzieć. Znajomość religii jest bardzo ważna do znajomości świata, bo element religijny jest bardzo istotnym elementem zrozumienia tego świata, zrozumienia człowieka. Element religijny naszej rzeczywistości to jest miejsce działania Boga, czyli szansa na zbawienie człowieka, centralne miejsce Chrystusa, ale także obszar działania złego ducha, szatana, Lucyfera. Czyli próba...
Trzecia wojna światowa będzie wywołana poprzez użycie tzw. kontrowersji. Agenci iluminatów działający pod nazwą, jakiej nikt nie zna, starają się wywołać konflikt pomiędzy politycznymi syjonistami a liderami świata muzułmańskiego. Ta wojna będzie prowadzona w taki sposób, że islam i polityczny syjonizm zniszczą sami siebie, podczas gdy pozostałe kraje podzielone co do opinii na ten temat będą zmuszone walczyć ze sobą, aż do całkowitego wyczerpania fizycznego, umysłowego, duchowego i ekonomicznego. Czy jakakolwiek myśląca osoba może jeszcze mieć wątpliwości, że intryga stworzona na Bliskim i Dalekim Wschodzie ma na celu zrealizować ten szatański plan? Sam Pike to przewidział w swoim oświadczeniu do Manciniego 15 sierpnia 1871 roku. Pike powiedział: ci, którzy mają zapędy do objęcia dominacji nad światem, sprowokują największy społeczny kataklizm, jaki świat jeszcze nie widział. Cytując swoje własne słowa, jakie skierował do Manciniego w liście, który obecnie jest przechowywany w archiwach Muzeum Brytyjskiego w Londynie, powiedział on: uwolnimy nihilistów oraz ateistów, wywołamy ogromny społeczny kataklizm, który w całym swoim horrorze jasno pokaże narodom efekty absolutnego ateizmu, źródło barbarzyństwa oraz najbardziej krwawego chaosu. I wtedy ludzie zmuszeni, aby bronić się przeciwko rewolucjonistom, którzy są mniejszością na świecie, wypełnią tych niszczycieli cywilizacji, a rzesze tych, którzy zostali rozczarowani przez chrześcijaństwo i których ateistyczne dusze zostały pozbawione kierunku i przywództwa, będą rozpaczliwie szukać swojego ideału. Jednakże, nie posiadając wiedzy, gdzie skierować swoją adorację, w zamian otrzymają prawdziwe światło poprzez uniwersalną manifestację czystej doktryny Lucyfera, w końcu ujawnionej społeczeństwu. Manifestacja, która będzie skutkiem ogólnego ruchu konserwatywnego, po którym nastąpi destrukcja chrześcijaństwa oraz ateizmu. Obie te doktryny zostaną obalone i zlikwidowane w tym samym czasie. Kiedy Mancini umarł w roku 1872, Pike ustanowił kolejnego włoskiego rewolucjonistę, Adriana Lemiego. Po nim nastąpił Lenin i Trocki, a następnie Stalin. Wszystkie rewolucje działania tych osób były finansowane przez brytyjskich, francuskich, niemieckich oraz amerykańskich międzynarodowych bankierów. Wszyscy z nich działali pod auspicjami klanu Rothschildów. Każe nam się wierzyć, że dzisiejsi międzynarodowi bankierzy, podobnie jak ci, którzy obracali pieniędzmi za czasów Chrystusowych, są jedynie narzędziami w rękach agentów wielkich konspiracji, ale w zasadzie to oni są mózgami, które stoją za tym wszystkim, podczas gdy społeczeństwu został wyprany mózg przez wszystkie mass media. Prawda jest taka, że zarówno brytyjskie, jak i amerykańskie służby specjalne są w posiadaniu autentycznych, udokumentowanych dowodów, że międzynarodowi liberałowie działający poprzez ich międzynarodowe domy bankowe, w szczególności dom Rothschildów, finansowało obie strony w każdej wojnie czy rewolucji od 1776 roku. Ci, którzy w dzisiejszych czasach tworzą konspirację, np. CFR w Stanach Zjednoczonych, kierują naszymi rządami, trzymając je w garści za pomocą federalnego systemu rezerw, po to, aby wywołać wojny, takie jak wojna w Wietnamie, wywołana przez ONZ, po to, aby kontynuować plan iluminatów Pike'a i doprowadzić świat do tego etapu. Pod koniec XVIII wieku kwaterą główną wielkiej konspiracji był Frankfurt, gdzie Mayer Amschel, który przyjął nazwisko Rothschild i połączył ze sobą innych międzynarodowych finansistów.
Of this man said to me, Ken, I introduced myself to him. He was very excited. He said, "Have you got your identification mark?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean. What's an identification mark?" He says, "They've just enacted a new identification mark. And by the way, this started with a voluntary implementation first. You did it voluntarily first. This man told me you ought to get yours done real soon to avoid the hassle, because soon everyone, they say, will have to have this to conduct business." Now, as time progressed in the dream, I was given the ability to realize by being in homes that television sets not only broadcast and transmitted programming, but they now had the capacity to actually send signals about you in your living room. See, I never really thought that could happen until an electronic engineer told me, Ken, anything that's electronic, that's designed, can do the reverse of its design. Anything. Your automobile can drive forward, it can go backwards. If you can receive a signal, you can, thank you, Lord, you can send a signal. Now listen, I was able to see that television sets were actually watching people in their homes, monitoring their movements, monitoring their conversations. They showed me in the dream, or I was shown in the dream, that the television didn't even have to be on, it just needed to be plugged in. Guess what I found out? That televisions made after 1992 can in fact watch you. They took us out and they took us into this very, very long corridor. In this corridor was thousands of people lined up. The corridor, it seemed to be at least 100 yards long, probably longer. But in my ability, in depth perception in the dream, it was a long, long line of people. And every 5 or 6 minutes, these people would walk forward and take a step. We had been in this line for a long time when people would barge in through the doors on the side of this corridor and begin to grill people and tell them to renounce their faith. They would never use the name Jesus. They would never use the name Jesus Christ. They would never use the name God. But they would say, you should renounce your faith in Him while you can still live. And your faith is empty. And it was a blasphemous kind of challenging that these people were bringing against the people in the line. And every so often somebody would crack. They would just collapse and they would drag them away and they would renounce their faith in Christ. It made me very, very uneasy to be in this line because I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do to us. I wasn't sure if they were going to put us in prison or maybe beat us up to scare us or what. It wasn't made clear yet to us. And there was the old man in the front of the line, my wife, and then myself. And they opened the doors very quickly and took this older gentleman into the room. And I don't know what happened to him at this point of the dream because they shut the doors very quickly. 6 minutes or so later, they opened the doors, this time wide open, and what I saw was the most empty feeling I think I've ever experienced in my whole life. I saw this man that was a very, very big man. I was sharing earlier in the tour that he was tall like a professional basketball player, but he was very big like a professional football player. He was an extremely large man, and he had a big hood, like a satin hood, over his head with eye holes to see out of. My wife was in front of me, and they began to tell her she could renounce her faith and live. And now I realized what was happening because this man was standing there with a huge sword, and it was a very, very frightening looking sword. And then I saw this table. that was a little bit longer than the average human being and a little bit wider. And my wife said she wasn't going to renounce her faith in Jesus. And so they got angry and strapped her down on this table. By the way, it was like this, face first. So she was looking up to the sky with this man standing behind her with this sword. He took the sword and chopped her head right off, right in my presence. I saw it. The other thing is the sword, and it's called the sword of scimitar. I was very, very afraid, and I knew that now I'm going to die. I'm afraid, Jesus, please save me. Help me. At the very instant that communication spiritually happened, I felt a hand grip my shoulder, and warmth and peace began to flood through me. After a few moments, I turned back, and there was the Lord Jesus Christ standing behind me. And then all of a sudden, He looked me in the eyes. They appeared to be red like fire, and they were just looking clearly through my whole life. Somehow at that moment, I was able to realize that Him looking at me was actually looking through me, and He knew everything of me. He knew my strengths. He knew my weaknesses. He knew every lie deep down inside of me. He spoke to me, and He looked sternly into my eyes, and He said, "Fear not, my son, for death will never hold you." Then they strapped me down and they said, "You can renounce Him." And I said, "No, I can't renounce Him because He's the Lord of all. And He should be your Lord." Folks, it doesn't matter what you go through here. It doesn't matter what trial you're experiencing. And I don't know why the Lord doesn't choose to show everybody Himself. I don't know. I have no idea why He showed me this. I was a sinner. I was not even interested in following Him. And all of a sudden, the man with the hood pulled off his hat, his covering, and threw it down and said, "I will not kill another one of these people." And then the dream was over.
Unless you've been hidden in Jesus Christ, the only one who warned you that the New Age is a trap, and that it is the climax to this epic drama being played out on planet Earth. Now hang on. Brace yourself, because I ain't going to let you down. This is a magazine called The New Age, but if you press rewind, you can find its source. Supreme Council of 33 Degree, Freemasonry. This one stretches way back to 1922. See the twin pillars of Freemasonry? Look, this is 19th century Freemason and New Age pioneer Helena Blavatsky on the cover of this edition. She's the one who wrote that darkness is absolute light, and that Satan is the god of our planet, and that we are in hell. But do you think the readers of these magazines are told that? No. Darkness is sold as light. Satan is disguised, and it's him in the details. This Masonic New Age magazine was the precursor to all magazines and trends, promoting the great deception of self-love and spirituality. Meanwhile, you're feeding off the plate that Luciferians serve you. Look at how the Satanic Bible in 1966 reveals the reality behind the curtain. Evidence of a new Satanic age. A new age. The new Satanic age. All rigged and all propelled by Freemasonry. Satanism's magic cloak. After all, and I think you should have guessed by now that Anton Szandor LaVey, the founder of the Satanic Church, the one who vowed to help destroy Christianity, is himself a Freemason. I can't prove it to you, but I know it, because of not only his obvious fondness of the fraternity of the Freemasons and the mention of it in his Satanic Bible, and its vital role in the Satanic takeover, but also because of the symbols, specifically this one, generally called the Devil's Claw or the Lion's Paw. Freemason James de Rothschild displaying the Devil's Claw or the Lion's Paw. X-Factor's L.A. Reid showing the Devil's Horns next to fellow Freemason Avril Lavigne. The Secret Society sign for the Devil's Number, and displaying the Devil's Claw, over and over. The better example is with New Age guru Annie Besant, co-writer of Lucifer magazine and 33rd Degree Freemason, also showing the lion's paw here and here. But the best example I have is with Aerosmith, guitarist Joe Perry clearly displaying the sign of the master of the second veil of the Freemasons, and right next to him, Steven Tyler, doing the lion's paw. Clearly both Freemasons, secretly showing their allegiance with symbols. And here's Anton LaVey displaying the same Masonic symbol. Yes, a Freemason founded the Satanic Church. Now that we know who's really behind the so-called New Age, listen to some of the confessions of the New Agers in their literature, once you scrape past all the talk of spirituality and love and rainbows. New Age author, feminist and hater of Christianity, Barbara G. Walker writes in The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, a 666, 666, was the magic number of the triple Aphrodite. She further compliments the number when she calls it the miraculous number 666. Speaking of the New Age to come, PhD Christopher Hyatt writes in Undoing Yourself, as we moved closer and closer to the well-planned for and long-awaited invocation of the Prime Minister unto the very King of Hell, the Grand Vicar of Lord Lucifer. Yes, the very well-planned for and very long-awaited indeed. Do you see what's coming? Mr. Hyde also enlightens us in the fact that opposites do not exist apart from the mind. Evil and good are all in your head. That's why you should brace yourself, because these are the minds creating the New World System. He confirms this. The New Age will require new men, men of high consciousness and fortitude. All of our present dogma models will crumble. He means the Christian and the Christian social structure will crumble. In the introduction to the book, another PhD, Robert Anton Wilson, tells you what the New Age really thinks of the Christian social structure, which you have more or less enjoyed your whole life, Christian or not. Christianity and democracy have been among the worst disasters to ever befall the human race. I told you, atheists, you're going to miss Christianity when it's gone. Here's a picture of Robert with the Masonic eye in the triangle on the wall behind him. Remember where the term New Age came from. So once again, do you think that the new system, the New Age, is going to be democratic? A system that respects you or gives a damn about what you think once it's in place? Let me answer it this way. Christopher Hyatt quotes from one of his literary heroes and famed philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who said, "What is more harmful than any vice? Active sympathy for the ill-constituted and weak, Christianity." So to be a Christian and to actively have sympathy for the weak, that's the worst vice. That's backward and evil. So the answer is no. This is what I'm warning you about. And look, Frederick's work has exerted a profound influence on modern history. That's from Wikipedia. You know what else Frederick said? You probably won't find this on Wikipedia. The domestic animal, the herd animal, the sick animal man. That's the Christian. And what book of Friedrich Nietzsche were these quotes pulled from? The Antichrist. Nietzsche also wrote Beyond Good and Evil. That's how the all-seeing eye sees things, remember? So does Christopher Hyatt mention mass murder and depopulation in his book? Sure, here you go. Those who would survive can do so only by grasping the vision of what lies ahead. The new wave that will carry them into an interesting future. Yeah, where the Vicar of Lucifer is God and Prime Minister. He openly admits the identity of this man. This Antichrist that most of you still think is a fairy tale figure from a fairy tale book. Jesus calls him the man of sin whose number is 666. The actual Antichrist, beloved of the secret societies. Yes, people, the New Age is satanic, actually and literally. On the front cover of this book, in which Christopher was co-writer, you can clearly see the eye in the triangle of the Freemasons above the Baphomet. Christopher admits in another book that both satanic cults and Christian fundamentalists are closer to seeing the truth than most normal people. Yes, indeed, how true that is. In Coming World Changes, Harriet and Homer Curtis speak of a prophecy they received from a mysterious spirit titled King of the World. Now, I wonder who that could be. Think not that any country in this broad world can escape. And they also speak of the long-expected great teacher, the king of the new one world government. The victors will remain as the seed of the new race to people the new land, for the new sixth great race. This is the race that Luciferian Lady Gaga referred to. All part of the plan. In Threshold to Tomorrow, New Age author Ruth Montgomery writes on page 206 that only those open to the reality of one world will be around to enjoy it. Sounds like another vague suggestion for mass murder. Vera Elder Stanley's book title implies much the same thing. Initiation of the world. That's right. It's coming. You think Vera hasn't been initiated into the secret one-eyed religion? What else has she authored? How about the finding of the third eye, the all-seeing eye? New Age author John Randolph Price writes in The Planetary Commission, in question and answer form, how do you define the Antichrist? The answer is pretty amazing. Any individual or group who denies the divinity of man as exemplified by Jesus Christ, the higher self of each individual, which Jesus Christ never exemplified because he is God. If you deny that mere men and women are divine gods, you are unfit for the glorious New Age kingdom. And you are the definition of Antichrist. In Practical Spirituality, he prepares his readers for a population drop of 2.5 billion people before the New Age era can begin. On page 32 of New Age author Barbara Marx Hubbard's book, Happy Birthday Planet Earth, she states that people will either change or die. That's the choice, she says. Notice the New Age has a new gospel, yet all the while, the world will be neglected of the information in the real Gospels, where it warns and predicts. For if someone comes and preaches another Jesus, not the Jesus whom we preached, or another gospel, you are most beautifully tolerant of them. In the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, the writer has a quote-unquote direct experience with two spirits, Enoch and Metatron, and they share with the writer spiritually scientific teachings regarding the new system of things soon to be fully manifest. The reason this work is considered extra special amongst its readers is because it was the first book to point out the alignment between the Great Pyramid and the constellation of Orion. The first book ever. That's basically proof that these spirits, Enoch and Metatron, are the real deal. Not only that, it was also the first book to show the direct relationship between DNA coding and the divine name. That's pretty serious, and the atheists should be really waking up by now, because this is the world's most powerful and secret religion we're talking about, nothing less. The writer was told that those who govern the earth are those who have fallen from the heavens. He calls them the masters, and even states that they were punished with penalties that were assigned to each. These are the fallen angels of the Bible, people. These are the masters of the Masonic New Age, as proven here in one of the illustrations from the book. Same symbology. This worldwide catastrophe that is coming will bring about a complete reorganization of Earth's life system. And like all high-grade initiates of the secret societies, every attempt is made to bring positivity to the number of the Vicar of Lucifer. I was given instruction to use the specific light harmonics 666, 999, and 12, 12, 12. The spirits further inform the writer of the Keys of Enoch that the pattern 666 is used to identify you with respect to the earth's vibration. The number of the beast of the Book of Revelation of Jesus Christ is not only being glorified, it's manifesting in the world. It purposes us and has been influencing us for decades upon decades, 2 to 3 centuries, in fact. Just like the Gospels explain, this is an absolute counterfeit of the truth. Christ is mentioned everywhere, but not Jesus Christ. No, this is the Antichrist spirit, who will eventually manifest and appear to the world as one man. Doesn't sound so mythical anymore when you see that the enemies of Jesus Christ and those behind the New World System, they use biblical terms. And Christ, to depict the antithesis, the anti of the real Christ, their Savior. And these spirits from the world we can't see are the ones who taught mankind the sick art of witchcraft. Look at who supplies this book online. sacredmagic.com. You know what magic really is and what it really entails now. So once again, you can see the connection, the relationship. If you still think that this phrase, New World Order, is a conspiracy theory, you're suffering from a medical condition. On the Lucius Trust website, the consultants to the European Union, you find the statement that the New World servers are occupied with the task of inaugurating the New World Order. In the same article, this shocking admission is made. 2/3 of humanity will stand upon the path at the close of this age, and with that, 1/3 will die, or to put it surreptitiously, will be held over for later unfoldment. That's the Lucius Trust. The word Lucius being the replacement for the word Lucifer, who works hand in hand with the EU, the European Union, stating that 2.5 billion human beings are planned to be killed off, all predicted by Jesus and only Jesus. And if you still think I'm joking or misleading you about what these people are and what they plan to do, here's a book written by the founder of the Lucius Trust, the Freemason Alice Bailey, Education in the New Age, where she, well, educates you about mass population reduction. When a form proves inadequate or too diseased or too crippled for the expression of that purpose, it is, from the point of view of the hierarchy, no disaster when that form has to go. Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. Do you see? Did you hear that? Through the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, the destroyer, for the purpose of the new world, death and mass murder isn't evil, it's good. And Alice Bailey in The Labours of Hercules also tries to re-educate us and protect that God-forsaken number, predicted in the Gospels to be associated with evil. The number of the physical plane activity is called the number of the beast. This idea seems to have a horrible fascination with many, but what it really means is that Virgo is the symbol of triplicity. 6 on the physical plane, 6 on the emotional plane, and 6 on the mental plane. Not 666 at all. And one more time, from the consultants to the European Union, from their website Lucius Trust, to prove to you that these people are all working toward and waiting for the world leader. The coming of the Avatar and the advent of the coming one are the keynotes of the prevalent expectancy. After everything I've shown you, are you going to ignore this? Or worse, are you going to trust these people, of whom were predicted to this very condemnation 2,000 years ago, right down to a one-world system, depopulation, and to the man who will carry the number 666, and with it implement a new system in which you won't be able to buy or sell unless you receive a mark in your hand or forehead. And what's just been announced by Business Insider? Cashless society. Due to this, by 2024. This is the manufactured trend for the world. And you better believe it's fulfilling biblical prophecy. You know that book that's been ripped out of schools and hysterically discredited? Why do you think there's a single eye displayed on all the covers of George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984? It's because the one-eyed religion is the one in permanent control, where democracy and Christianity have been utterly extinguished, and the remaining population live in a whole new level of permanent communism. It is well known that George Orwell himself had ties with the Fabian Society, which is a secret society complete with degrees of initiation. Tucked away neatly somewhere under the wing of Freemasonry, the Fabian Society's logo used to be this: a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is exactly what Freemasonry is. And it was a metaphor for gradually advancing socialism. And socialism is communism for slow learners. This level of denial on our part has been brought on by mass propaganda, because everything has been weaponized to work against you and God's truth. Education, entertainment, and economics. You're a slave to each one. And Freemasonry is the slave master. Listen to the Grand Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry tell you about it in Morals and Dogma. The blind force of the people is a force that must be economized and also managed as the blind force of steam. You are just blind energy to them, made to be enslaved. This force must have a brain. Who do you think the brain is? Freemasonry is the brain, obviously. And he's saying that we're just the body parts that move to its will. Look, these are some pictures I took of the local obelisk in my town. An erect phallus hidden in plain sight. See how the cube at the bottom is rough? In Freemasonry it's called the rough ashlar stone. Well, watch this from Morals and Dogma. The rough ashlar is the people, rude and unorganized. Once again, you can see what this secret society secretly thinks of you. Now see how the stone built on top is smooth? That's called the perfect ashlar. The perfect ashlar is the state, the rulers. Yeah, the one-eye sex cult of Freemasonry, which hides its master, Satanism. Now, where is this brain taking us? Remember, this guy is the general who fought against the United States forces to uphold the institution of slavery. And the Grand Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry, who calls you the vulgar herd and the ignorant multitude, and admits that, yes, unbelievably so, Lucifer is the light bearer. This is the highest authority in Freemasonry, the secret religion of all our leaders and idols. Believe it. This is a 150-year-old book, so you can see how far ahead they plan, while we stay ignorant. How do you suppose that they won't achieve the New World Order? The New World Order of death. Of combined and systematic movement and effort, the great revolution prepared for by the ages will begin to march. The future is all planned for by them, and the revolution prepared for by the ages is coming, and it'll look like a natural occurring event, just as current events seem natural. Lastly, from his other book, Legenda, and reading from the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, Albert writes, and thus the warfare against the powers of evil, meaning Christianity, that crushed the Order of the Temple in the 1300s, goes steadily on, and freedom marches ever onward toward the conquest of the world. The conquest of the world, guys. And this is their method. Ingenious as it is, the double-headed eagle, the left and right paradigm. Whether you are pro-abortion or life, prefer Macca's or KFC, Ford or Holden, vote Liberal or Labour, shop at Coles or Woolies, go for the Parramatta Eels or the Canterbury Bulldogs, always the two most opposing forces, the result always feeds the one belly. The two heads always serve the same Masonic beast. Do you get it? That's number one. Number two is the horribly magnificent motto of their double-headed eagle, Ordo ab Chaos. That means order out of chaos. It's the ultimate way to achieve your sinister goals while looking like a hero. With one hand, they create beautiful and noble things. With the other hand, the hidden hand, they destroy and pervert. Then the helping hand comes back in to save or fix things again, alternating from one to the other, while nudging toward a predetermined goal, until finally reaching that goal that's set in mind in the first place. All the while, you never knew that the same hand that's saving you is the same hand that was destroying you in the first place. Order out of chaos. Their order out of their chaos. Another way to look at it is this. Z creates or exploits a problem, then attributes blame to others. Y reacts by asking Z for protection and help to solve the problem. Z offers the solution that was planned for by them long before the crisis occurred. Ordo ab Chaos, order out of chaos. Now you can change Z and Y to suit any scenario. For example, your best friend who wants to sleep with you creates or exploits a problem, then attributes blame to others. You react by asking your best friend who wants to sleep with you for protection and help to solve the problem. Your best friend who wants to sleep with you offers the solution that was planned by them long before the crisis occurred. Each time your best friend gets closer and closer to you until eventually they're in your bed. How about your employee creates or exploits a problem, then attributes blame to others? The employer reacts by asking the employee for help to solve the problem. The employee offers the solution that was planned by them long before the crisis occurred. The employee eventually gets the promotion. But this is the way I really want to put it. The government creates or exploits a problem, then attributes blame to others. The population reacts by asking the government for protection and help to solve the problem. The government offers the solution that was planned by them long before the crisis even occurred. This is how the great revolution prepared for by the ages by the Freemasons will begin. Who you think you are? You are not where you think you are. Do you see it? Can you fathom? And what blood means in this world? So much more than what you may have known before now. Blood sacrifice is of the utmost importance. It's what the beings in the other realm require, desire. We can't fully understand it. But do you see how the blood sacrifice of Jesus Christ takes on a whole new meaning now? A very real meaning. And guess what? Because of it, the good guy really does win in the end. You either fall under the blood of the world or under the blood of him. There is no middle ground. Blood is like the monetary currency of the spirits. And that's how God bought us back from the legal ownership of the ruler of this world with blood, his own blood. Now you can begin to understand why they hate him so much. Because that's why he was born into the world of flesh, to produce blood of his very own. Not by means of perishable things were you set free once and for all, by the payment of ransom money, but by costly blood, by the one who was visibly manifested at the closing years of the times, for your sake. That is the truth. Do you think it's just a coincidence that this is the last age before the long planned for new order of the ages? That's ages, plural. That means forever. That's the plan. That's why the Gospels say that he was visibly manifested at the closing years of the times, at the end of this last age. In the book 1984, George Orwell told us, if you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. I've shown you that this so-called New Age is in actuality a new satanic age. And it's not really new at all. It's very old indeed, it's ancient. But like I said, its progress was derailed by the appearance of Jesus on the human scene. Now I'll prove to you that the New Age is an old religion. Novus Ordo Seclorum is part of a quotation taken from the Roman pagan philosopher Virgil's 4th Eclogue, which was borrowed by him from the Sibylline records, which were ancient prophecies delivered by an oracle through witchcraft or divination. That's where the phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum comes from. Now look at what the full phrase actually says. A mighty order of ages is born anew. Both the prophetic virgin and Saturnian kingdoms now return. Now a new progeny is led down from the lofty heavens. Favor, chaste Lucina, the boy soon to be born, in whom the iron age shall come to an end, and the golden one shall arise in the whole earth. We've just been told that the New Age is a Saturnian kingdom, which returns, so it's been here before. Next we see that a new progeny, meaning a new seed, a new race, there's that race again, is coming to earth. And that a boy will be born, who will bring the Iron Age, which is the age we're currently in, to an end. And that the Golden Age, the New Age about to begin, will again arise over the whole world. Now what is the Saturnian kingdom? Well, for starters, this is a band called Saturnian Mist. And here on their front cover, we have a reference to magic. Then we see by the singer's shirt, they're Satanists. Then with his other shirt, we see the connection once again between the inverted pentagram of Satanism and the one eye of Freemasonry, the secret religion of the who's who of planet Earth. Freemason and Satanist Marilyn Manson has a song called Saturnalia, and on a satanic website on ritual offerings for demonic bindings, we find that Satan is Saturnian in nature. Here on the front page we see the inverted pentagram under the head of the Baphomet, and right next to it, a version of the square and compass of the Freemasons, of which a lodge is located near a suburb near you, no matter where on earth you live. The Satanic Church hidden in plain sight. Now let's go straight to the source so you can see for yourself the nature of the New Age Saturnian kingdom found in the full quote of the Freemasons' New World Order seal. From this book, which is a factual study of the single most influential occult organization in modern Germany, the Fraternitas Saturni, or the Brotherhood of Saturn. We learn of the path of the Saturnian initiate, which is outlined in detail with the meaning of all 33 grades, 33 degrees of Freemasonry. This is the very same thing, the same objectives. All secret societies work for the same goal because they all have the same spirit. The only difference between Freemasonry and this Saturnian fraternity is that your local Masonic lodges are veiled and camouflaged filtering systems for future Satanists, from which all influential figures of society are chosen, where the real religion begins at the 33rd degree. Whereas with orders like the Saturnian Brotherhood, there is no filtering system. As such, you're a student of Satanism from the first degree. That's why Satanism's takeover would have been impossible without international Freemasonry. The Saturnian teachings include sexual mysticism, sex magic, and Nietzschean Thelemism. Nietzsche, remember the guy who says that Christians and the mindset to help the weak makes up the sick animal man, the guy who wrote this book and doesn't believe in good and evil. And Thelemism from 33rd degree Freemason, who says that in this book that to initiate the New Age the whole world must be bathed in blood in a bloody sacrifice before man can accept the law of Thelema. Nietzschean Thelemism. That's what the New Age Saturnian kingdom, from which the Freemasons took this phrase from, actually looks like. This factual study on the Saturnian Brotherhood is filled with references to Lucifer, Satan, magic, sex magic, blood, sacrifice, the number 666 as mentioned by Jesus Christ himself, and of course, Freemasonry. The secret society that all of our politicians and entertainers belong to. And what's the demonic sigil for Saturn? The Masonic square and compass. Are you going to snap out of it now? When you see a beautiful sunrise and smell the fresh air, or hear a great song, or see a great movie, are you going to forget where you really are? When you hear people using Jesus Christ's holy name as a cuss word, are you going to forget where this phenomenon really came from and why it's taking place? Now that you've seen how actual and bona fide the reality of 666 is from their own mouths and symbols, let me show you where else it's revealed. Do you see these Roman numeral numbers down here? They add up to 1776, the year that America officially became the country we know of today. And also the year of the birth of another secret society, which was absorbed into Freemasonry after it was banned in 1785. But look, the base numbers. M is 1,000, C is 100, and X is 10. All you have to do is subtract the base numbers. 1776 minus 1,000 minus 100 minus 10. Or simply remove the Roman numerals which represent the base numbers. No, I'm not playing tricks on you. Neither are your eyes. But someone else is. Now that you've seen the prevalence and seriousness of this horrid number, now that you've seen what you've seen, I can show you where else it appears. This figure is represented by the numbers. To make this work, they had to remove the number 1 altogether and separate the 2. Of course, we'd be too dumb to pick up on it. But 789 minus 456 is this, multiplied by this lonesome 2. That's right. This dark and mysterious figure is none other than the long-anticipated Antichrist, the ruler of the Saturnian kingdom, which is on its way. And Australia has been steeped up to its neck in secret societies since the early 1900s. World Economic Forum logo, with this slash through the O's, is of course representative of the number of the ruler of the New Age, 666. The barcode is the primitive version of the worldwide system that Jesus predicted would revolve around the number of the beast. And as you can see, the base of every single barcode in all the world is 666. no matter if the lines are on the ends and in the middle are elongated or not. I found that out from the horse's mouth in an interview with the man who was commissioned by IBM to come up with a new way to automate data collection. There are in fact 3 sixes in the Google logo, which comes from this occult symbol. Coincidence? And he found in a Masonic lodge the square and compass symbol appears in the middle of a hexagram, which is a symbol used in the royal art of Freemasonry, witchcraft, as shown in this book. Well, among other things, the hexagram itself can be broken down to quite clearly represent 666. This is a Masonic square and compass designed by the Manal Masonic Lodge, symbolizing world unity. Up the top you find the logo of the United Nations. Well, there are 33 segments in the UN logo, symbolizing the 33 degrees of Freemasonry. See this crop circle here with the Masonic eye on top of the pyramid? I know nothing about crop circles and the phenomenon of them, but I know how many rays are coming off the eye. 33. 33 degrees of Freemasonry. Don't forget that the highest authority of Freemasonry already admitted to be the designers of the pyramidal seal in a 1962 edition of their magazine, The New Age. I've shown you how the inverted pentagram makes for the spelling of the word Mason in the same seal. Well, that same pentagram with the elongated top horns appears here in a European Union logo. An inverted satanic pentagram right in front of our eyes. Here's the European Union building architecturally mimicking the Tower of Babel. That was the very same tower that the God of the Bible destroyed thousands of years ago, according to the Bible, when Nimrod, one of the admitted founders of the original craft of Freemasonry, tried to unite the world under one world government. So this logo and this building design is a clear statement to the God who intervened the first attempt at a world government. This is England's Secret Service logo for MI5 with the word intelligence being symbolized by the eye of Lucifer, who was viewed as the most intelligent entity in existence by the secret societies. And this is the symbol for the Information Awareness Office. You know exactly who's in control, and now you know exactly what they want, and they will get it. In a 1962 article written by former US President and Freemason's wife, Edith Roosevelt, in the New Hampshire News, and speaking of the spiritual counterpart building for the United Nations, called the Temple of Understanding, she writes that the symbolism planned for the building dates back to the black magic practiced by the high priests of ancient Egypt, and that the building will contain a giant eye. You don't have to wonder why now, because you know why. This clothing designer is fully aware that the one-eye symbol is synonymous with Satan and hatred of Jesus. Does this movie poster make any more sense to you now? It only goes for a few minutes. Keep in mind, the only reason I'm showing you this to you is because the writer and director of the preview of this movie-style documentary was murdered, along with his wife and his little daughter and his dog, all before the production could begin. The murder was made to look like a murder-suicide, the news of which never made national broadcasts, just the local news. Case closed, nothing to see here. You have to ask yourself why. After so many movies with a dystopian, World War, totalitarian type theme, why was this movie so dangerous and strictly unacceptable for public viewing that a whole family would be murdered? Well, this movie was going to tell us about America's secret destiny. And one other thing which you'll see on the other side of this clip, an amazing thing. As titled by Manly P. Hall over 100 years ago, what's the secret destiny of America? Well, it's this.
dreamt about how things were. And I woke up here.
What was David's hidden message inside the gray state? And could it be the reason for his death? Perhaps the scariest part of Gray State's conceptual trailer is this character here, who appears to be operating a guillotine. David Crowley was very intentional in this frame of the movie. He added something that I believe he wanted the people to know about. Who is the identity of this executioner? If you look closely, you will see that this terrifying character is wearing something around his waist. It appears to look like an apron. The executioner wears a Freemason apron, complete with the all-seeing eye, the compass, and the 2 pillars. I do believe David Crowley is trying to tell us something. He is telling us that the organization behind the French and American revolutions, the organization behind the Italian Revolution of 1830, the organization that outlined a plan to overtake the Vatican in a document called the Alta Vendita, the organization behind the Trail of Tears and the deaths of thousands of Native Americans under Freemason Grand Master Andrew Jackson, the organization behind the Ku Klux Klan in the United States post-Civil War and its rebirth in 1915, the organization behind Hiroshima and Nagasaki during 33rd degree Freemason Harry Truman's presidency. These are men with a radical revolutionary agenda throughout the entire world because they worship and follow a radical revolutionary deity. The first to have led a revolt against the Most High Lord.
When I was in high school, coming from a completely non-Christian and non-religious family or background, I distinctly remember the first time that I decided that the Bible or the New Testament, to be more precise, was definitely not true. Made up, fairy tale, whatever. It was one verse, one scripture that to me at the time proved unequivocally that it wasn't written for our time. A prophecy that was impossible to be fulfilled. Here's the verse. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and authority to administer justice was given them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded, because of the testimony they bore of Jesus, and because of the word of God. No way could guillotines be introduced as a form of execution in the 21st century, right? No way. Proof that the Bible was a prehistoric book written for prehistoric people. And this is long before he woke me up on a midnight highway to spare my life from a high-speed collision into a concrete wall. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2021, like the smartphone or the smartwatch, this is called the smart guillotine. Built by Chanel. You know, the perfume and clothing and accessories brand for the rich. What on earth does a perfume company have to do with chopping people's heads off? Well, I thought I told you that all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. I wonder who really owns Chanel. Well, here's their logo, and there is an eye in the design. And have you seen their drip design? How odd. Welcome to the real world. You ready? This is from a legislation archive from the Georgia House of Representatives in the 1995-96 sessions. This is Bill HB 1274 on the death penalty, guillotine provisions. How far along are we into enacting these bills worldwide? I don't know. Maybe they've been enacted already. But I just wanted to show you that in 1995 the ball was already rolling. Another ball that's rolling are the 7 universal Noahide laws. They sound great from the outside, designed so to conceal some terrifying details on the inside. Firstly, they were signed into US law in 1991 by George H.W. Bush on March 26. Here's the bill and resolution. It was named Education Day. As you can see in the details of Resolution HJ 104, they are the 7 Noahide laws, resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in 1996. Every single president since H.W. Bush has annually re-signed this resolution. Many world leaders have called for the acknowledgement and observance of the 7 Noahide laws, including the President of the European Union in July 2014 and the Australian Governor-General Michael Jeffrey in 2008. And this will be international law. So what's the problem? Well, just for starters, the law against idol worship will include, quite specifically, the worship of Jesus Christ as the Son of God, which the Noahide laws will classify as blasphemy, and the punishment for transgressing the 7 Noahide laws and for blaspheming the ineffable name of God by calling Jesus God is decapitation. I'll let you take that in for a second. This will be governed by a world court with no possibility of appeals. Something like this, an international Sanhedrin. Who do you think is truly behind these laws? Well, I can show you that right now. Here is the bill being signed into law by H.W. Bush, and here is their signature hidden in plain sight, the hidden hand of Freemasonry, displayed by this sinister and gloating-looking individual. And you know what Freemasonry is a cover for now. Who do you think designed the guillotine in the first place? This guy, Joseph Guillotine, a Freemason. Still don't believe in the prophecies of Jesus Christ? You're still in denial?
Last night I dreamt about how things were. And I woke up here.
Well, that's why the director was murdered. And his wife, daughter, and dog. I think of them often, and sometimes when I need spiritual sobering up, I think of that fateful and evil night where that beautiful Christian family were brutally eliminated. If you think he wasn't onto something, well, he paid the greatest price to share this with you. Prophecy will be fulfilled. Listen to the words that come right after the execution by guillotine scripture in the Gospels. And I saw those who were such that they did not worship the beast, nor his image, and did not receive his mark of identification upon their forehead and hand. Remember this mark in the video? I'm not saying that the director knew what the mark would be, but based on the symbology, he knew who would be behind it. Look at the triangular symbol of the Freemasons. The Masonic triangle around the eye, and the Brotherhood of Saturn. Now look at the front cover of the book written by New Age author Maurice Nicoll. The mark. Same symbol. Identical to the symbol used by J.K. Rowling, who said its design was inspired by the Freemasons. Who has this tattoo, which represents the Baphomet. Well, Solve Coagula is the process in which they will bring this New World system to life. It's identical to the Masonic motto of order out of chaos. Solve means dissolve or destroy, and coagula means to bring the elements back together into a new and higher form, a new and higher system. Jesus described it as the beast system, and one way or another, we will be marked as a form of identification in order to participate. But first, chaos must ensue. A deep Masonic truth, which is mostly true anyway, is that destruction precedes construction. It's like having to destroy a tree in order to create a table. The same principle applies to creating the New Age. That's why I know that the process which involves the creation of a new system must involve the destruction of this one. Now, this is the last referenced work I'm going to use to show you who will be the head of that system, that one world government. A book by David Spangler, considered as one of the founding fathers of the modern New Age. He also has an intimate relationship with the United Nations, as shown in a 1975 document which was uploaded to the UN archives in 2006. Please pause to confirm that, where you can find his name listed under the Board of Directors for the Planetary Citizens Group. In his book, Reflections on the Christ, David Spangler, remember, one of the founding fathers of the New Age and a member of the Board of Directors in a United Nations sanctioned program, repeatedly upholds and honors the entity known as Lucifer. He tells us all about what is required to step into the New Age. Well, mainly, what's required is a new understanding of the angel Lucifer. He writes that when this great project of evolution began, man went forth as consciousness to learn his divinity, and Lucifer went with him. It is important to see that Lucifer, described as an angel, a being, a great and mighty planetary consciousness. He says that, just like in Halloween and trick or treat, if the person offers a treat to Lucifer who knocks on his door, and the person says to Lucifer, "Come in, and I will give to you the treat of my love and understanding, and I will uplift you in the light and presence of the Christ," Christ meaning my outflow, then Lucifer becomes that being who carries the ultimate treat, the light of wisdom. Lucifer represents experience. Lucifer is literally the angel of experience. The Luciferic element becomes the true revealer of light, the angel of light. The light that reveals to us the path to the Christ comes from Lucifer. The Christ that he refers to obviously is the Antichrist spirit, who will eventually manifest on earth as one man. But for some odd reason on page 60 he feels compelled to clarify that he was only joking once when he said maybe to enter the New Age we all need to take a Luciferic initiation. Well, that's definitely no joke. That's right, Lucifer is the savior of the secret societies. The solar system was the manifestation of the consciousness of a very great being known as the solar logos. And if we go back to the secret society of the Brotherhood of Saturn, we read that mankind will be able to take a measure of egocentric power from the solar logos. In this way, Lucifer is the savior of humankind. Do you see who you're dealing with? These are the people above you, the rich, powerful, influential, overflowing in all areas of those who are steering society, and they're about to reach their destination. Who showed you? Who told you? Who warned you? Jesus Christ did. Oh, those pesky Christians. In the animation Flushed Away, the villain Toad conspires to genocide all the rats in the sewer world and replace them with a superior species, a new species. No one is aware except for this one rat who's briefly seen in the beginning. He's a Christian rat, a nut job, carrying around a plaque, as some real-life Christians used to, warning everyone of the impending doom that is upon them. What's the twist that's hidden in plain sight for no one to see? Well, the villain Toad, planning the New Age, wears the ring of a Freemason. This ring. And he wears it exactly on the finger that a Master Mason should. It is worn on the third finger of the right hand. There is one who predicted it all, and they know that. That's why he's been so thoroughly discredited, or so it seems. Yes, the nutjob Christian was right all along. Remember one last thing before I close. From Masonic New Age author Christopher Hyatt, who spoke of the well-planned-for and long-awaited invocation of the Prime Minister of the world, when he wrote in his book, a massive truth that I wish with all my being that you would grasp. Both satanic cults and Christian fundamentalists are closer to seeing the truth than most normal people. The world has always been at war, a spiritual war from the beginning. And if you don't know it, then you're losing the battle. The Gospel tells us so accurately that the enemy we wrestle against is not made of flesh and blood, but it is made of spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms. That's where the real war is being waged, in the spirit. And now that we know what secret societies are, and what they've tapped into, we can rest assured that that statement from the Gospels is true. That's why the common denominator between all of the secret societies is the anti-Christian sentiment. You need to ask yourself why. Why the negative obsession with Christianity? It's not as if Christians run the game. Freemasons have banned Bibles from schools. They teach evolution as a fact. Pornography is thriving. There are no Christian protesters left. Homosexuality is rampant and protected, and Christianity is buckled. Which church preaches against Freemasonry? Which church is telling you about Satan and his hidden church, which has permeated every vein of society? So why do they hate Jesus if they're at the top of their game? Because Jesus Christ is real. That's why. And he left us prophecy that they can't escape. See, the more they win, the more they fall into the hands of the prophecies of Jesus and his Gospels. What a blessing for you, those who would grasp this as truth. What good news for you, and what a terrifying conundrum for them. If you've come this far and you still don't care or still unwilling to trust, then you deserve what's coming as a law of nature. Because you've been warned of all of it. The one world government clearly on its way. Cashless society, inevitable. The mark that each person will receive, without which you won't be able to buy or sell or participate in this world. And the manifestation of the name, the number of the name of the one who will implement this system. 666. All of it is coming to pass. Inescapable we are from him. Everything and everyone will fall back into his hands, where he will finally separate the goats from the sheep. Now watch the Bible destroy Freemasonry like no other book in 2 minutes. Regarding their lodges and obelisks, their heart is faithless. Now they must bear their guilt. The Lord will break down their altars and destroy their sacred obelisks. And speaking of the bloodline that gave birth to Jesus, God says, "You shall not set up for yourselves a sacred pillar, which the Lord God hates." See what you're up against, Freemasonry? While Freemasonry meets and speaks in darkness and secret, Jesus said, "I have spoken openly for all the world to hear, and in secret I've said nothing." Freemasons are known as builders. Well, the stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be dashed to pieces. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. Every Masonic lodge is built so that all the members face the east. Who are these men with their backs toward the temple, facing the east and worshipping the sun? It is detestable. Freemasonry does evil in secret with their hidden hand, but they blow a trumpet over the hand that does good. But Jesus says, when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right is doing. Your good deed must be in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. You can't become a Mason if you're broke, blind, maimed, or have a criminal record. Jesus said, but when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Freemasonry takes pride in its secret rituals and is hungry to rule the world. The Gospels say that their destiny is destruction. They make appetite their God. They take pride in what should bring shame. Their minds are set on earthly things. Freemasonry believes that the light is but darkness visible. The Bible says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light. And Jesus further said, if therefore the light which is in you be darkness, how great a darkness that would be. Freemasons spend their whole lives taking gruesome oaths of secrecy. Jesus said, but above all things, my brethren, stop the practice of putting yourselves under oath. Freemasonry is built upon a hierarchical system, a pyramidal system. Jesus said, for everyone who exalts themselves will be humbled, and whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. We could go on, but we're going to end on this one. Exclusively written for the practices in the lodge room of political Freemasonry. A troublemaker and a villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks with his eye, signals with his feet, and teaches with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart, He always stirs up conflict. Therefore, the disaster will overtake him. He will suddenly be destroyed. That is Freemasonry through and through. And apart from the man in the mirror, prior to your baptism of the Holy Spirit, Freemasonry is the villain. They do go about with a corrupt mouth as they are sworn to secrecy. They do proverbially wink with the eye, making the one eye. They most certainly signal with their feet and teach with their hands and fingers. In the lodge, I can vouch. And they do plot evil, stir up conflict, in order to further their goal of the New Age and the New World Order, the greatest conflict being up ahead. But thank God Almighty above, the verse also tells us that disaster will overtake them, and they will be destroyed. One frightful and glorious day, you can count on that. Because the only thing you can count on in this world, more than death, more than taxes, is the Son of God.
W bliskiej przyszłości Ziemia zdominowana jest przez potężny globalny rząd. Kiedyś wolne narody stały się niewolnikami malutkiej elity. Początek nowej mrocznej ery wisi nad rodzajem ludzkim. Kraje to wspomnienia przeszłości. Atakowana jest każda forma niezależności. Rodzina, a nawet jednostka przestaje istnieć. Blisko 80% ludzkiej populacji na Ziemi zostaje wyeliminowane. Resztki wolnej kiedyś ludzkości zmuszone są do życia w silnie kontrolowanych, ciasnych miastach więzienia. Podróżowanie jest silnie ograniczone przepisami. Superautostrady łączą mega miasta, powstrzymując populację od wkraczania w zakazane strefy. Żadna działalność ludzka nie jest prywatna. Inteligentne superkomputery rejestrują i klasyfikują każde zachowanie. Planeta więzienie jest zdominowana przez bezwzględny gang wariatów opętanych władzą, którego potęga nigdy nie może być zakwestionowana. Oto wizja globalnej elity, ich cel. Program totalnej dehumanizacji, gdzie prawem jest chłodno wykalkulowana tyrania. Światowa sieć kontroli, zaprojektowana by zagwarantować władcom wieczny monopol na władzę. Nasz gatunek zostanie skazany na tą koszmarną przyszłość, jeżeli masy ludzi nie uświadomią sobie planu wprowadzenia nowego porządku świata i nie zmobilizują się w celu jego odparcia.
animals, and even filthy things from the ground, and sometimes refusing to engage with more than one individual of the opposite sex, and even collecting into groups called families, a pervasively immoral concept of pre-civilized times. Yes, thoroughly disgusting examples of complete sexual perversion, as you can see.
Did the primitive females actually...
Yes. Primitive females gave viviparous birth to young.
Like animals?
Yes, physiologically, exactly like animals. I understand your reactions. Perhaps we should take a brief soma break. Naturally, none of what you have seen would be shown to betas or gammas, much less to deltas like these. But each of you is an alpha. You weren't mass-produced in computer-cloned Bakhanovsky batches. And you are all supremely happy, supremely content. But then, that is truly the perfection of our civilization. Everyone is adjusted. Everyone has been conditioned to want to do the work he has to do. And thus, everyone is perfectly happy, perfectly content. Alphas like you, betas, gammas, deltas like these, or even epsilons. Are you happy?
Happiness for all is happiness for each.
Look at these caps. We have the number 47. 4 plus 7 is 11. There are 3 of them. 11, 11, 11, which adds to 33.
Des décennies qu'ils avaient planifié la mort de Charlie. Regardez Snake Eyes de 98. Il commence par un match de boxe le 10 septembre. Même date que l'exécution de Charlie. Le boxeur s'appelle Tyler, l'exécuteur. Même prénom que le suspect. Et le match est truqué. Un spectateur lui fait un signal pour déclencher l'action. Ce qu'on a vu pendant le discours de Kirk. La cible est touchée à la gorge. Et elle s'appelle Charles Kirkland. Même prénom et nom de famille. Donc à ce stade, le mot coïncidence, c'est plus une option. Il mentionne aussi une tempête. Et 2 jours avant la mort de Kirk, le magazine Jezebel publie une attaque pour maudire ce misogyne. Le film a été tourné au Trump Taj Mahal. Et dans le script, le financier de l'opération fait référence à Trump. Il possède la reine et fabrique un bouc émissaire terroriste pour se couvrir. Le titre Snake Eyes, avec le slogan « Croyez tout sauf vos yeux ». C'est ironique, non ? Armageddon, 1998, 9-11 et les 2 tours en feu. Bien avant 2001, les films programmaient déjà le 11 septembre. Retour vers le futur, 9-11 avec mentionné tour jumelle. Et ensuite avec La route en feu, Indépendance Day 1996, 9-11, 2 tours, explosion. Terminator 1984, attention 9-11. Fight Club, Les Simpsons, Cartoon Network ou Matrix avec le passeport de Neo. C'est de la magie psychique, des rituels codés qui s'impriment dans l'inconscient collectif. Blood on the Dance Floor 1997. Michael Jackson en rouge symbolise le sacrifice de masse. Et ses bras pointent vers le 9-11. New York, c'est la scène maçonnique. La statue de la liberté, c'est Lucifer qui observe. Et le sang est la clé qui ouvre le portail. Le 9 symbolise la fin d'un cycle. Et le 11 la renaissance. 9-11 ensemble représentent l'effondrement de l'ancien monde et l'invocation du nouvel ordre mondial. Les 2 tours deviennent une dans Duel. Ces 2 mandats 45-47, 4 plus 5 est égal à 9, 4 plus 7 égale 11. Et sa photo de profil, 9 étoiles, 2 barres. La voix d'un homme remplacé par un programme dans une église. On se croirait dans un film dystopique. Le plan est sous nos yeux, remplacer l'humain par la machine. C'est ça le vrai turning point. Kirk est exfiltré et on le remplace par une IA. Même discours chez Melania.
It is our duty to treat AI as we would our own children.
Russie, Ukraine, Gaza, Hamas, Epstein, Clinton, Covid. Tout ce qui est mainstream est encodé. Ils avancent ensemble, comme Candace Owens l'affirme.
I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA.
Donc posez-vous cette question. Si les gouvernements étaient vraiment en conflit, pourquoi ils convergeraient tous vers le même futur?
Na ten temat istnieją
I mówię wam, że są zdeponowane w odpowiednich miejscach, obojętnie co by mnie się stało, bo pogróżki już były, to te dokumenty ujrzą światło dzienne. Ujrzą światło dzienne.
Szanowni Państwo, ja chciałbym tak powiedzieć. 12 lat biją się wszyscy. Wszyscy działacie, rządzą profesorowie, macie tytuły naukowe. Wszystko wiecie, co trzeba zrobić. W kampaniach żaden z Was nie powiedział, że nie wie, co zrobić, jak zrobić, gdzie są pieniądze. Kiedy przejmujecie władzę, program wyborczy do kosza, bierzecie inny program, słuchacie Brukseli i Waszyngtonu, tak jak przedtem Moskwy.
Delightful personality. Straight from Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. Please give a juicy welcome to Mrs. Sarah Goldfarb! I'm delighted to tell you that we have just